Jim, I called off my wedding because of you.
Pam is kind of a bitch.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fakest of them all? It's Pam. It's Pam Beesly. Hi everybody, and welcome to Mind and More, where we talk about anything that comes to mind and more. I love The Office, and there's certain episodes I've watched up to 10 times or more. I'd never rewatched the episodes surrounding that Jim, Pam and Karen love triangle that many times, but now that I have, the way I see Jim and Pam is changing. I used to root for Jim and Pam a lot, but as I've been rewatching season 3, at first I noticed that Jim wasn't a great boyfriend to Karen or to Katie in earlier seasons, and I did a video on that, but now I also see that Pam herself was problematic. I never had a problem with her, but now I do. In fact, when it comes to the Karen situation, Pam was low-key evil, Jim is playing dumb, and Karen's a victim, and I'll explain why I think so. I recently rewatched season 3 episode 22, the beach games episode, and I cannot contain my fury. Let me explain why. Before I talk about what happened in this episode, let me just give a very quick backstory on Jim and Pam. Jim had had a crush on Pam for years, while Pam was actually engaged, by the way. She was engaged to this sucky guy called Roy. Jim had been wanting her for years and never said anything, and then he finally did and kissed her, while she was still engaged. After doing so, he then left the Scranton branch of Dunder Mifflin to work at the Stamford branch. While he was away, Pam eventually broke off her engagement with Roy. Jim wasn't aware that Pam had broken off her engagement, let alone that it was his fault or that he was the reason. So he decided, you know what, let me move on. Let me try and see what else is out there. And that's when he started dating Karen. Karen didn't really like him when he first came to the Stamford branch, and it was probably her intuition speaking. But anyway, they got over all of that. They started dating, and then the Scranton and Stamford branches were merged, so they both went back to Scranton. When they went back, Jim didn't bother to tell Karen that, he had a little bit of a history with Pam. No, nothing was said. But eventually Karen did find out, and she obviously wasn't too happy about that, but they also got over that as well. Karen was never mean or weird to Pam, even after discovering the whole little history she had with Jim. She was pretty nice to her. Now, let's go back to the beach games episode. So Michael had organized this beach day for everyone in the office. So that's including Jim, Pam, and Karen. It doesn't really matter what they were doing there and all, but the only thing you need to know is that there were activities, and at night, one of the activities was stepping on hot coals. So Pam didn't have to do this, but she decided, you know what, I'm feeling brave today, so she did it. She stepped on hot coals, and afterwards she was feeling energized and exhilarated, and she decided to do something that was so dumb. After stepping on these hot coals, she decided she's a new person. She's no longer the doormat who hides her feelings. Instead, she's got blistered feet, and she's gonna run to her co-workers and just say stuff that is none of their business. She asked about how they didn't attend her art show, yada yada, and how she just feels invisible sometimes, whatever. And then she goes on to do something so stupid. She turns to Jim while Karen is sitting right there and says, "Jim, you're the reason I canceled my wedding." Excuse me, what? How dare she? How dare she do so in front of his new girlfriend? Was there no other opportune time than that time? Imagine this. This is in front of everyone in the office. Jim is sitting next to his new girlfriend. He's moved on. You said you didn't want him. He's moved on. And then now is when you decide that you're gonna say, I canceled my wedding because of you. What? She was trying it. How was Jim supposed to react when he's right next to Karen? How was Karen supposed to react? I know how a lot of people would react. She would have gotten slapped. That's honestly the most appropriate response for that. Karen should have slapped Pam. But anyway, she was a class act. She didn't do so. Karen is just looking, and Jim is also just staring, and she goes on about how she'd canceled her wedding because of Jim, and now we're not even friends anymore. I miss that. I miss having fun with you. Imagine that, saying that to someone's boyfriend while they're sitting right there. Someone's boyfriend who once kissed you while you're engaged. And then now you've decided, oh, actually, I want them back, or I want them in my life again, or I want them to have, I don't know, a bigger role in my life, whatever she was thinking. And then you decide to confess all of that while in front of their girlfriend. And she also says, I know you're with someone now, and that's fine. I mean, who asked for your opinion? Who asked for your approval? She was just disrespecting Karen left, right, and center. So because all of this is completely bizarre, no one says anything. And then Pam is just like, yeah, I've said what I needed to say. Okay. And then just runs off. When Jim came back from Stamford, he tried to talk things out with Pam about how things were a bit awkward. And she just brushed it off, dismissed it, and said, what do you mean? What do you mean things are awkward? We're just friends. We're just friends, right? So what's the problem? You're just friends. So why can't you just be friends? Why do you need to have this little confession where you say, oh, I canceled my wedding because of you, and now we don't even talk anymore? You said we're just friends. Do you have to have all of that from just a friend? You're just friends, right? Regardless of the little scene Pam had made, Karen still continued to be cordial with her. In the next episode, and it's probably the next morning or something like that, Pam approaches Karen whilst Karen is sitting in the break room, and she says, about the beach the other day. And Karen just jumps in to say, you know what, it's okay. I think sometimes we all speak without thinking. And you know how Pam responded? Instead of just saying, yeah, I'm so sorry about all of that. No, do you know what she said? She said, no, it's not about that. I meant what I said. I'd been thinking it for a long time. What? She doubled down. Karen was willing to let things go and just move past that. She thought like it had just been a spur of the moment thing of just saying something that you didn't really think twice about. And Pam instead decides to double down and say, no, I meant that. I meant everything I said. I'd been thinking about it for a really long time. And I actually wanted to say sorry because I wanted to say sorry if it made you feel uncomfortable. What kind of an apology is that? What kind of an apology doesn't apologize for actions, for your own actions? Instead, you apologize for how someone might have felt about your actions. What? That's not an apology. Pam, I know you can do better than that. I'd never thought about how annoying that scene was until I recently rewatched it, because I was thinking, imagine someone kind of confesses love to your boyfriend. Basically, that's what she did. In a very roundabout way, that's what she kind of did. And then they approach you the next morning and you try to say, you know what, yeah, you probably didn't mean that, it's okay. And then they say, no, I meant it. I meant every single word. I'd been thinking it a long time. What? That little stunt was motivated by jealousy. She'd been watching them ever since they came back from Stamford. I mean, she'd been watching Jim and Karen. She'd even admitted to being a little cold to Karen for no reason, when Karen didn't even initially know she had a history with Jim. That little, if you can even call it that, they had a little something, right? Then she had a moment of trying to be friendly with her when they end up rivaling Angela for the party planning committee stuff. She was being fake when she was doing all of that, because if you're now friendly with someone, you're trying to just, reach out and show that, hey, I have no problems with you, and being nice. The next thing you should do is not say to the person's boyfriend whilst you're at an office beach thing that the person's boyfriend is the reason why you canceled your wedding. That is counterintuitive. That's not what you do when you're trying to be friendly with someone. Pam was being fake nice to Karen. Pam never liked Karen when Karen was actually the one, if anyone was going to dislike anyone, Karen was the one who should have felt that way. Even though I'm not about girls hating each other over a guy, I'm not a fan of that. But if anyone had a right to feel some type of way, it should have been Karen, because she didn't even know anything had happened between Jim and Pam. She's just put into this situation that she knows nothing about. And then I think it was Phyllis who told her that there had been a little something between Jim and Pam. She should have been the one who felt some kind of way. Pam had kept on insisting that she just wanted to be friends with Jim. So why can't you just be friends? I feel like she was undecided about the role she wanted Jim to play in her life. This is just what I'm thinking. Then thought, you know what? What if Jim was actually the better option? She just had second thoughts about how she was initially feeling. I don't think she really wanted him all that bad. I know they had a good friendship. They had a little flirtationship going as well. But I don't think she'd ever seriously considered dating Jim until probably when he came back with Karen. Now she's seeing, oh, he's with someone else. Now she wants what she can't have. I think there was an element of that there. Now, don't get this all as Jim is blameless in this situation. No, not at all. He was also the one causing all of this drama. He should have just been very honest, like, hey, I had a little crush on Pam before, but that's all over. You know, I'm focused on this new relationship, or said something. I don't know. Just kind of reassured Karen, but he never really bothered to, and maybe because he wasn't really into her. But then again, why are you dating people you're not really into? I could never really understand that. But my point is, those two were playing games, and Karen was a victim in all of that. Do you remember when Karen and Jim first moved back to Scranton, and Karen had been staying in a hotel for about a month, right? And she'd seen an apartment that was for rent on Jim's street, right down the road from Jim, and she'd said she wanted to rent out that apartment, and Jim had said no, that's too close. It would feel like we were living together, even though they would be living in separate houses. When they'd had a fight about that, Pam had noticed that Jim was a bit down, and she'd said, hey, what's wrong? And then I think he said that there'd been something happening between him and Karen, and then Pam offered him a listening ear. She was like, hey, if you need to talk about it, we can talk about it. Now that I think about that moment, I think she just wanted to relish in that Karen and Jim were having some issues. I think she just wanted to enjoy hearing about their problems. That's how I feel that was now. I am not saying Pam is the devil. No, not at all. But she really wasn't nice in how she was moving in terms of that Karen and Jim situation. I feel like if you'd rejected someone or said, you know what, we're just friends or whatever, please just try and let them move on. And also, for your sake, try and move on as well. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Otherwise, you're going to start doing nasty things, seeing other women as opposition, when really there should be none of that. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. If you let a person go, sometimes it's okay to let them go. I mean, according to her, she was now just friends with Jim, right? I thought she was just friends with Jim. And I thought she was now friendly with Karen too. So when Jim abruptly breaks up with Karen and leaves her in New York to go ask Pam out, which is insane, by the way, she didn't even know they were broken up. Why does she immediately just say yes? The last you saw of that man, he had a different girlfriend that he was probably going to move cities with. Now you're just happy he gets to be yours? No questions asked? First of all, don't you just want an explanation like, are you and Karen broken up? You're already asking me out. I thought you were with Karen yesterday. I mean, don't you want an explanation or something, right? Or don't you feel like this person needs time to forget about the person they were dating, time to heal? Do you really just want to be with someone who was in a relationship with someone else that previous afternoon? Is that really something you want to be involved in? And secondly, she knows Karen. She's pretending like they're kind of like buddy, friendly and all that. So it's okay to just like start dating Karen's boyfriend when you're not even entirely sure that she's broken up with Jim. I don't get it. It's just not making much sense to me. When I first saw the scene where Jim comes in to ask Pam out and she's really happy, it was so sweet. I liked it. I was like, oh, this is such a cute moment. We'd all been waiting for so long for them to get together. But now that I think about it, I'm like, this is actually an insane scene. He just dumped Karen. Well, I assume he dumped her before he got with Pam, because do we actually know if he did? He just left Karen in New York and then rushes to Scranton to ask out Pam. Like, Karen was nothing. All he'd been wanting was Pam all along. And all along, Pam is probably secretly wishing that Jim could be with her, that when he comes back, she doesn't even ask anything. She just says, yes, I'd love to grab dinner with you. This makes no sense. Anyway, my point is, Pam had no business saying all of what she said about how she canceled her wedding because of Jim and how she knows he's with someone else and that's okay, as if someone asked her for her opinion, and doing all of that in front of Karen when she had been previously pretending to be friendly with Karen. Pam had no business being a little cold, her words, not mine, a little cold to Karen. That was not necessary. Pam had no business being that jealous. It's not easy when you like someone, but I think the best for your own sanity is just to kind of just put it in the back of your mind if you can and just let things go, especially if you hadn't even dated that person. Pam also had no business in immediately saying yes to going on a date with Jim when she didn't even know that he was broken up with Karen. She'd been claiming that she's happy for Jim, she's happy for them too. So if you're happy for them, why are you taking her man? I mean, you cannot steal a man. I will stand by that. People go where they want to go. You cannot steal a man. But I'm saying she'd been happy to just take Jim even though she didn't know whether he was broken up with Karen. She had no business doing that. Jim was problematic, but Pam was problematic in her own right too. Anyway, Karen ended up having her happy ending. We saw her with a new great job and she'd gotten married to a guy she really liked. She was having a baby. I'm happy she got her happy ending, and she was so far removed from these two people. These two were playing stupid games and they won stupid prizes. Anyway, that's my rant on Jim, Pam, and Karen. Actually, it's mostly about Pam. It's mostly about Pam doing too much and disrespecting others. That's my rant. What's your take? Do you think I'm doing too much? Do you think I'm the one who's doing too much? Do you think Pam was disrespectful in this moment, or am I just reading too much into it? What's your take?